Hey,
Hi,
it's Tash and Carly,
and you're listening to Motherhood,
not as we planned.
So get comfy, grab a cup of tea,
Or a glass of wine, and let's start talking about all the things too many of us avoid discussing. Welcome back. So today's episode is sponsored by Voucher Codes, the UK's most trusted discount code site and app. So nothing better than getting money off when you were shopping.
I couldn't agree more, especially with shopping for lots of bits with 2 kids. I just find it really stressful trying to find codes or discounts that actually work.
I have you covered with the Voucher Codes app. It is amazing. They have the best discount and they're partners with over 5,000 restaurants and retailers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I also trust it will really work because they hand test all their codes.
That's amazing.
I got Blake's school shoes from JD Sport and I got the best discount through the app.
Well, that's annoying because I bought myself some trainers from there yesterday.
Yeah, that is annoying.
How do I sign up?
Okay, literally just download the Voucher Codes app on the Apple Store and then start finding all the saving. How's your week then?
Yeah, good. This morning had a bit of a bad drop off with Theo at school. He's been at school just over a week now and not one single tear the whole time. So I kind of like got a bit cocky and thought I'd nailed it. And this morning, like literally on the drive there, getting out of the car, he was hysterical. Like, you know, when they're properly sobbing. I actually had to physically hand him over to his teacher. And he was just his hands out, and I got in my car and cried. And
I got surprised.
And I guess that kind of stems nicely onto today's topic, which is mum guilt. And I have experienced it massively this morning. He's saying, "Why can't I stay at home with you?" And it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard. And I think instantly when you become a mum, you experience mum guilt. I just remember feeling guilty for anything that wasn't revolving around my child.
Yeah.
And I guess I think that's what we want to speak about today, because I think the first thing I want to say, and actually when I was looking over the messages, this was brought up by a lot of people and we need to discuss. We talk about mum guilt. Have you ever heard the term dad guilt? I don't think it exists.
No.
Because I feel like, and I'm sorry if this seems really like, I don't know, sexist or whatever, or presumptuous or whatever, but in general, I would say men feel less guilty for doing things that we feel guilty for, even things like going to work, or I don't know.
I think it's because that stereotypical like thing is mum with kids, dad at work. So it's almost like they're doing their role. So what are they feeling guilty for?
When, say, you leave the kids to go somewhere and they're like, "Oh, is their dad babysitting?" It's like,
yeah.
So what happens when the kids with their dad and I'm looking after them? I'm not babysitting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's little.
Or it's funny. I saw something and it was like you can be a stay-at-home mum or a working mum, but then when it's a man,
they're not a working dad.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. Yeah, they're not a working dad. They're just
the dad who goes to work.
Yeah.
It is funny, isn't it? It's not really funny. It's really annoying. I've struggled with mum guilt for years. I think I've mentioned before, like, really, if I'm being honest, prior to everything with my marriage breaking down, maybe actually a year ago, I actually started to do a little more for me. I went on my first trip away with my girls. Like, I started not going out loads, but I had been that person who never went out. I didn't want to leave my babies. I never really felt that comfortable leaving them with anyone else. And I guess a lot of that had to do with like COVID and stuff, is that Theo got very used to me. Like, he couldn't stay at people's and it was really hard to then leave him. Like,
yeah,
I do think that's hard for any parents who have had kids within COVID. I think,
well, they've probably formed that kind of like separation anxiety.
Definitely. And I even think like being that first time parent, it's always really hard. I remember the first time I left Theo overnight and I just couldn't enjoy myself because you're just worrying the whole time, aren't you?
And do you know what? I think it's interesting because I think every mum has experienced mum guilt, but I want to speak about those mums that feel guilt for not having mum guilt, because I would feel like at times I am that person. I feel like I'm at that point most of the time with co-parenting where I don't feel bad anymore for enjoying myself and being without them. And sometimes that makes me feel guilty that I don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I feel like when we're going through all the mum guilt things and scenarios that people have sent in, if anyone is listening to this and they don't have those feelings, I don't want you to feel like you should. I don't think we need to feel guilty for going to work and leaving our child in childcare. Like, it's okay to want to go to work. So yeah, let's share some of the stuff that people sent in. There is a lot.
There is a lot. I feel like when I did the box, I feel like it was a bit of an outlet for people to get things off their chest as well. It's quite a bit of,
the venting. Okay, I mean, the first one here, I feel like we can probably resonate with quite a lot, is the guilt for splitting up my family only for my kids. I mean, I think it's so normal when going through a separation, regardless of who's to blame or anything, you do have that guilt because you want to grow your kids to grow up in a one family home. You do. And I know it's very, very cliche of us to say, oh, you know, 2 happy homes are better than one. But at the end of the day, I think for me, the main thing is wanting to set an example for them. Like we said in the other episode, how would you feel if your child dated that person that you're in a relationship with? Would you be happy for them? If they think that a bad relationship that you're in is okay, they won't seek for anything more than that. So really, you need to remind yourself that, yes, you may feel guilty for splitting up your family, but actually what you're doing is still for them as well as yourself.
I struggled with the guilt surrounding this at the start, and I actually feel way less guilty for it because I actually feel like I'm a better mum. Now I'm forced to have time to myself to fill up my own cup. I feel like it means I give more of myself and a better version of myself to my kids. But I also feel like they're in a much calmer and better home. And that doesn't make me feel guilty anymore.
Yeah, no, I think it makes me feel guilty. The other day, they do still sometimes say things, rarely, but I do sometimes still get the, why can't you and daddy just live together? And it does pull on your heartstrings and it does upset me. In that moment, I had this like massive amount of guilt, like, oh, like I wish I could have done that for them. But I know that they will grow up knowing that this situation was better for them. And that's something you need to,
as long as they know they're loved by both parents.
Yeah. Or do you know what? Even one.
Yeah.
Kids actually only need one solid good parent in order to be okay. And that's another thing that I think you need to remind yourself of. I feel like people probably have that mum guilt of trying to get their co-parent to be present, be active with them, but you cannot control other people. You can only control what you do. So if anyone struggles with that guilt of, oh, their dad's not really around much, like that's not on you.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
What else is here?
Sorry if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the state of my bitten legs, by the way.
Getting childcare even though I'm a stay-at-home mum. I mean, do you know what?
That's a full-time job though. Getting your house clean, like getting on top of everything, but also taking time to fill up your own cup and rest and relax. And one thing I have learned, and I've learned this purely through my separation, is you do need that time to yourself. You will burn out. You will burn out and get overstimulated. And I genuinely believe by what you were doing means your kids are going to get a better version of you.
Also, another thing to sort of like back that and to not feel so guilty is sometimes when kids are in childcare, they tend to do a lot more. That's kind of like makes them thrive in activity and socialise.
Yes.
Like, you don't just have to send your child to nursery or a childminder because you work. Like, there's a social aspect of it, which is really good for them. That's like saying, like, Rome goes to nursery. I work from home. In theory, he could be with me, but actually he is probably doing so much more in those hours at nursery than he would be with me trying to work around him. So, no.
Provide him with other opportunities you can't necessarily give. Like, I don't have the time to be setting up all different activities or thinking
and doing things that you wouldn't want to do in your home. Or maybe you don't have, different toys, so no.
I know. Yeah. I do really resonate with that because obviously, my job as well revolves me being at home, and actually for the last however long I have had Milo around me the entire time. And actually next week's a really big week for us because he's got his settling in session at nursery. He's going to do 2 days a week at nursery, and then he's been at a childminder on a Monday. And this has been a really big thing that I've been battling with, the mum guilt, but it's so I can get more work done, especially now I'm on my own. I need to work more because I need to essentially earn more money to, have the lifestyle I want, but B, just to make ends meet. And actually sending my child to childcare in order to do that is essential right now.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to make
in the long run. It is for your kids.
It's all for them.
Yeah,
every penny I earn is to give them the life that I want them to have.
Yeah, I mean, I sent Blake and Ivy to a childminder when they were around 10 months. That was purely to go back to work. I didn't do Instagram or social media as a job, so they went. And then with Rome, because I work for myself now and because I'm at home, I found it really hard to let go. So I didn't send him to nursery until nearly 2.5. He's 2.5 now, and he's only been at nursery for a few months. So I had guilt that I was holding him back from socialising because I didn't want to let him go. It's like, you can't win. Can you?
That's it. And as well, so Theo started nursery when I think he was just before 2.5. So then in my head, I was like, well, I can't send Milo to nursery for his 2.5 because I want to give him the same time. And I think we put all this pressure on ourselves, like it has to be this because I did this with the first child. But actually, my circumstances are incredibly different now. And you know what, even if they weren't, and even if I just felt like I wanted that space for myself, that's okay. And I think it's like what you said, it's literally no matter what you choose to do, you can't win.
Yeah.
Even though I constantly remind myself, like, every single thing I do, every penny I earn is to give my kids the life I want my kids to have, or even just to pay the bills or this or that. And
it's like a constant battle, isn't it? I mean, it says here, and I really resonate with this, giving the same effort and time to both children without getting exhausted and overwhelmed. I mean, I feel like it is probably impossible when you have more than one child to give the same amount of energy and effort, because children are different.
Their needs are different as well.
Exactly. And, you're outnumbered now without a partner at home. I'm outnumbered. I have 3 children and they've all got different needs. Rome being younger and less self-sufficient is going to mean that he requires more from me in certain ways. And then someone like Blake, who I feel is a lot more emotional, is going to require more affection than Ivy because he's more affectionate. So I probably maybe do sometimes hug him a bit more than Ivy, not because I love him more, but because I feel like he admires it. So I do sometimes have that guilt of, now that I'm not with their dad, I used to really like trying to do one-on-one stuff with them. So like it might be the kids will stay at home with their dad and I'll pop out with Ivy for a few hours and we'll do something a bit girly. I don't really get to do that anymore because I don't have anyone to leave them at home with. And I feel guilty about that because I feel like they're missing out on more one-to-one interaction with a parent because we're not together anymore. But we have... So what I've done is I've taken, time out of my kid-free weekend to be like, do you mind if I take Ivy out for a few hours? Or, so I have tried to do that. But then I don't want to also take them away from time with their dad. I win. But I really resonate with the whole, kids are different. They need different from you.
And also they require different amounts of you in different days. Like some days they might need more of you.
Yeah.
It's like us as adults. Our needs are changing all the time. And
mum guilt over losing my temper with my kids and not handling the situation.
I relate to this so much. It's the worst when, especially on those days when you're touched out, you're overstimulated.
Yeah.
The house is a mess. There's noise and everything that triggers you, and you react in a way that you know almost as you're reacting is not the way you want to do it. And it's like it's like a fizzy bottle. It just erupts. And then that awful feeling, like I've had it recently. Again, I don't know if it's Theo's response to his new living situation or starting school or what it is. But I feel like at bedtime, we were in a really good place. Like he was going down really nicely, not arguing. I was actually really enjoying it. It was a really nice time. And recently it's just, he's really been pushing it. And I get stressed because the evenings are when I often do a lot of my work or I'm cleaning. Literally, those are my evenings. I'm working or cleaning. I'm never doing anything remotely exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I'm like, right, we're losing time. He's playing up, he's doing this. And the other day, I just shouted at him. I was like, I need to work. And I remember I left the room and I felt so bad. And my rule in my house is I will always go back and apologise because I think it's really important to model that behaviour. So I think, and that, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that stops my mum guilt. It absolutely doesn't. But I think I then step out the room, I gather myself together, I go back in and I say, Mummy shouldn't have shouted then. I should have stepped outside and caught my breath because I was getting a bit angry, and kind of explain my actions to him. I said, that was wrong. Next time I'm going to try and do better. And we have a cuddle and we like repair that. And I say sorry, and I think it's really important to model that. And I think it's also really important for kids to know it is okay. Like sometimes you can't help how you react to things. That is, we are human, but it's how you respond to that and how you deal with it. And, the things like the apologies, I think are really, really important to model. And actually, it's really nice seeing Theo starting to model that. Like when he shouts at me, or he does something he shouldn't do, he'll come up to me off his own back. It actually makes me feel really proud. Like actually I am doing an okay job. And he'll come up and be like, well, Mummy, I'm really sorry. And I genuinely think he means it. So I think we need to try and remove that guilt of having those moments where we snap, because ultimately we're exhausted.
Yeah.
We're exhausted. We are I am continuously chasing my tail. Nothing is ever finished. Nothing is ever as I want it. The house, there's always something, isn't there? And sometimes it's that noise, it's that touch, it's that.
Sometimes I feel like they maybe can sense it and they do push on it, probably because they want a bit of attention.
Yeah,
and if I was like calm and relaxed, I'd be able to notice that and give the attention rather than getting angry. But like, we are human, we do react. And like you said, it's acknowledging that mistake, showing them how to resolve it. And I think it's no different to when you have an argument with a partner, how we've always said that like that repair and reconnect is more important than the actual argument. And that's no different with your kids. So I think we are all going to have that guilt of, I shouldn't have shouted, or I was really horrible. Sometimes I even, wrong, I'm telling myself, stop. What are you, like, I even realise I shouldn't be doing it whilst I'm doing it, and I carry on because I'm so like, why do you not listen to me? I've said it 3 times. I'm not going to say it a 4th. And in my head, I'm like, what you're doing is not going to make it any better. But I can't help it. And then afterwards, yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be one of the most common ones is like the shouting at your kid.
But also remember, like, whilst they are children learning to regulate their own emotions, we are still learning to regulate ours. Like, we're
always ongoing. Here, carry on. I think that one's quite
having time to myself. I always feel guilty over it.
I don't anymore because I feel like when I'm with them, it's so full on and I give as much as I can. So when I have time to myself, I'm like, I deserve this.
My time to myself now is my time away from the kids.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, you're right. I don't feel guilty for it anymore.
No.
I'm embracing it now.
And I just feel like also anyone that's listening to this that doesn't come from like a 2-home family, I feel like it's just as important to have time for you, because being a mum shouldn't define you. And I think a lot of the time it ends up being that way. And, you're a child, you may be a sister, you're a wife or a partner. Like, it's not just about the kids, and I don't think you should feel guilty about that.
To do things you enjoy doing. Like, one thing I like realize in my separation is like, I lost myself in my marriage. I lost who I was, and maybe not just in my marriage, maybe even becoming a mom.
Yeah.
I lost what I enjoyed. I couldn't tell you what my hobbies were anymore. I don't know. I just felt, and I feel like I'm finding myself now, and I'm doing things that I used to love, or I'm discovering new things that I love. And I think in hindsight, I wish I'd poured a bit more into myself, and, even things like, I don't know, like if you like going for facials or treatments or taking yourself shopping, or just, it's so important to do things, that make you feel good. Because again, like happy mum, happy baby, if you're doing things for yourself, I do genuinely believe you give more back as a parent. You're less resentful.
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like you could be a better wife. Like,
yeah, I was literally going to say, like, it's all very well us saying, like, we get to have this time that we never had because we're now separated and we have a lot more kid-free time. But I think there's something that is maybe really refreshing to, if you're listening to this and you are still with your kid's father, is, maybe once a month on a Saturday, if he doesn't work or whatever, can I have a morning I'm going to go to the shop somewhere and I'm going to go and get my nails done. I think it's important, I think men sometimes have this habit of like, they're going to go to the football or they're going to go and play golf. Like, it's just as important, not only to do things like date nights and couple things, but also to find yourself again, because it's so easy to get lost in being a mum, and I wouldn't feel guilty for it.
Okay, this one. Okay, being on my phone too much.
Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are guilty of this. I find it really hard because I feel like a lot of my work is based on my phone. I can do
all my work,
all my editing, all my communication with my clients, it's either on my phone or my laptop. And I think as well, like when you do work for yourself, it's really hard to find the line, because I don't want my kids to ever feel like they're being ignored and something's more important. But I fully accept I have to work around my kids, and my kids are there often when I'm working, and I have to do that. That is my job, and you know what it's like. So I think there's a fine line. I think if we're focusing too much on our phones and not actually being present and in the moment and doing fun things, like I think, in my opinion, if you're compromising too much on having that physical time with your kids, actually sitting down and playing, because a lot of the time, if you're on your phone and they are bugging, they want you to play. That's how kids say, I need some attention. Like, will you play with me? I have a little rule that if Theo comes up to me, mine doesn't quite know how to say it yet, but Theo says, Mummy, will you play with me? I stop what I'm doing and I do it, because I feel like that's his way of saying, Mummy, I need you. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's necessarily about the playing. I think he needs me in some way. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just having that, I don't know, that discipline almost, like put it in the bigger picture. I always think to myself, in however many years' time, my kids aren't going to ask to play with me. They're not going to want to play with me. They're going to be in their rooms on their own gaming or whatever it is they're into, and they won't want that. And I'll probably be listed thinking, I wish they wanted me. I do think we need to, and it's easier said than done. I'm not saying never have your phone out or whatever. Like, we're entitled to communicate with people. We're entitled to, but I do think
we're all probably guilty of it in this day and age, just generally social media. Like, think how many hours you probably spend on your phone, even not working. So no, I feel that. And I think just trying to make that conscious effort to limit it in some way I think would probably be good for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I always feel guilty for rushing bedtime.
I do that sometimes.
Look, I think sometimes you burn out and you're waiting for that peace. I've certainly been guilty of putting my kids to bed early on nights where I need it, or
not even putting them to bed early, but just literally being like, I want another book or this, that, and the other. And sometimes I'm a bit like, you mess about so much. If you just went to bed nicely after this book, I'd be happy to do the book. Do you know? And sometimes, like you said, it's kind of like clock watching. You're like, oh, do you know what? They're not even in bed yet. It's 7:30. I'm really tired. I don't want to go to bed too late. But there's something about staying up later than I should so I have that time to just be without children. So I think we're all guilty of even that, like, countdown to bedtime. And then once they're in bed, you're like, oh,
some days are like that and some days aren't. I think some days are really lovely, and like some days I genuinely have started to enjoy bedtime. I think there's something really nice about a familiar routine, and I don't know, just it's really cliche, but like your children feeling like safe with you and knowing. I don't know, but for us, it's a really big deal. Theo's actually been falling asleep on his own. I know that's a big deal. Like a few months ago, he was only falling asleep on my chest. And there's something about him feeling safe to do that. And something I find really quite lovely about it. And I don't know, some bedtimes, I really love my bedtime routine with Milo. He knows, like, it's funny. I love it. Things, and like, he chooses his book every night. And even things like me lay down, he lays down for me to put his sleeping bag on, and just really cute. So they goes, now we do kiss. Like, it's just, it's really little cute things like that. And I think that expectation for them is really important. So I feel bad because I feel like sometimes I rush bedtimes more with Theo than I do with Milo. And I literally do that.
That's where my guilt is my bedtime with, so I tend to bath them all together, and then get them all out, get them dry, and I will say to Bacon Ivy, go and get your pajamas on and you can chill in your bedroom for a bit, and I'll deal with Rome first, because he's so easy to go down. So I feel like I sort of sit there and we do our books and we've got a routine. He lies on his bean bag.
Guarantee on him going down.
I literally then put him in his cot and I'm like, I love you. He's like, I love you, mummy. And then I leave the room with the door open, and Blake and Ivy are screaming and jumping around on their bed, and he doesn't batter an eyelid. So, like, I'm not saying I enjoy it more because he listens and he's well behaved, but it's an easier process. We've got our little routine. So then sometimes once I've done that bedtime, I then go to Blake and Ivy and they're messing about, they're not winding down. But then I think to myself, it's 2 5-year-olds, they're sharing a bedroom. How am I expecting them to wind down without me in the room? That's where I feel like the routine for me isn't great being on my own, because really, ideally after bath, I should be in there with them, helping them wind down, doing the stories with them. But I've left them to their own accord.
You don't have a choice
to deal with Rose. So they're going fucking wild, hanging upside down on their beds. One's under the bed, like...
It's literally there.
So yeah, I do sometimes have that guilt of doing the lovely bedtime with Rome, and then by the time I get to their room, I'm a bit like, why haven't you listened?
I spoke about this, like something I'm really going to try and make an effort.
Literally now, I feel like tonight
I'm going to have a great bedtime tonight.
I'm going to have such a good bedtime, and we're going to come on here next week. I'm going to be like, that bedtime was fucking horrendous.
Going to the gym and focusing on my own goals. If my partner can play football, then I can go to the gym.
That's literally what I just said.
And obviously in my line of work, I work with a lot of women who battle the guilt of, but like the kids come first. And I do think it's so important that you are doing things for yourself. But one of those things I also think as well, like by going to the gym and spending time working out and improving your health, I genuinely think that makes you a better mum. Physically, like I've had so many clients say, physically they can do more with their kids. They can bend down, they can chase them, they can go on long walks, you know, like we're investing in us being healthier for longer.
Yeah.
So we're investing in ourselves as people and as mums to be that healthy person. I also think as well, like this is like my PE teacher head on, but I think you're also demonstrating self-care to your kids. Like, it's really important to look after yourself. It's really important to take care of your health and take pride in moving. And I think it also normalizes it. Like, obviously a lot of what I do boot camps for mums purely for this. So a lot of my clients work out around their kids. And I think sometimes for some people that takes the guilt away because they're not away from them. And actually what's really lovely is I have lots of clients who their little kids join in, or they're watching their mummies work out and they're thinking, that's good to see. And it's really good to see. It normalizes it. It's, you know, it's not showing things like exercise as a punishment or anything like that. And I think when we start realizing that actually we shouldn't feel guilty for A, doing something you enjoy doing, but B, like doing something that's actually taking care of ourselves and making us healthier and stronger and fitter and essentially even like prolonging your life. Do you know what I mean? It's something I refuse to feel guilty for, but it's certainly something I've found challenging since becoming a single mum.
Yeah.
I used to work out 3 nights a week outside in the garage. I can't go out there because it's too far away from the house that I can't.
That's such a shame.
With the kids. So I am just doing my boot camp.
I think one thing that's very obvious here is when we're reading all these things that people are sending in about what they have mum guilt over, it's actually of the things that we're doing that we're feeling guilty for, it's benefiting our children. So sometimes I think we need to like pause and look at the bigger picture and think, okay, I might feel guilty for this, but actually it's not negatively impacting anyone.
And my kid is at the interest of this.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of us seem to feel guilty for spending any kind of time away from our children. I think we have this thing where we chose to have them or bring them into this world. So therefore we need to
be the one to always be there. But actually, also, your child learning to be away from you is healthy. I feel like I could probably put a positive spin on every single mum guilt. Literally, like, troll me. Like, I'd love someone to be like, oh, but I feel guilty of this. I'd be like, well, however, like, there always is something that you can spin a positive on where I feel like it's beneficial for your child. You know, one of the things that I sometimes feel massively guilty for is maybe like the meals I give my children. Sometimes I'm like, you see those mums, or again on Instagram, and it's very much like comparing yourself, but who make these like homemade like shepherd's pies and casserole dishes, and I'm like, here's your pasta and cheese, or here's your chicken nuggets and chips.
My kids wouldn't do stuff like that.
I wish they did, but at the end of the day, like, you're giving your child a meal that is going to fill their bellies and give them energy to get on with the day. So yes, I wish I was that mum that prepped my meals and batch cooked and
cut out little flowers in their sandwiches.
Yeah, but I'm not that mum. I feel like I was at the beginning. I used to, you know, do all my homemade, like blended. And now my kids don't want, sadly, fresh salmon with quinoa and bulgur, and you know, they want McDonald's sometimes, and you know, they're being fed. Like, thank God I can feed my children. So again, a positive spin on one of my biggest mum guilts
on their site.
What's one of your biggest mum guilts?
Oh, I guess it's that overstimulation for me. I feel really guilty that it could literally be like a touch or a noise, and I know it's like them needing me in some way, and I feel like if I've had a day of it, literally I feel like my head can be screaming, and I feel like everything is amplified, and some days it literally feels like my brain is going to fall out my head. And it's for me is the snapping, or the, I guess, like inability to self-regulate first.
Yeah.
I always feel I'm really bad with that. I like beat myself up. Even if I've apologized, I'll still like spend that whole evening being like, I don't know, almost like beating myself up, being like, you're such a crap mum. Like, I don't know.
But you do know you're not.
I know I'm not. One thing I am sure of in my life is I'm a good mum, but I'm one of those people who, like, I'll go round and round and round a scenario again in my head. It's my overthinking.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just like the thing. And you know what? I would say I've felt the pressure of that more since being the single mum and being on my own and taking on even more of everything and juggling that and juggling emotions and juggling new situations arising, things where I literally want to go outside and scream, or, you know, things kind of going through a divorce is not easy. And I think sometimes I need to remember that I'm still processing some really big things. And so sometimes, like, my mood is more temperamental, or I am triggered by things more, or I'm less patient. And I think I need to start cutting myself a little bit more slack as to, like, what I'm going through is, and what I have been going through is pretty freaking massive. It's a really big thing to change. And That's for me my biggest one.
And just a reminder, make sure you download the Voucher Codes app. If, like us, you like shopping and you like saving money on places like ASOS, Boohoo, Boden, Adidas, make sure you get it downloading now so you can start saving.
Right, let's go into some emails. Okay, this one is called Advice. Hi ladies, love your podcast. I started listening to it at a time where I thought splitting up was the only way forward for myself and my husband, and it really helped me think about a lot of things. I tend to sway to and from the idea of separation, as sometimes it feels like the only way forward, and others it feels like it would be the end of the world to break up our family. He really struggles with communication, and any serious conversation ends up being over text message, which is already a huge issue, even if it's in the same house and we're in separate rooms. We should be able to speak about things openly, but can't. I feel so jealous of people who say that their partner is their best friend, as even after 15 years together and 3 kids, I feel like he doesn't understand me. If our relationship over text was reflected in our actual relationship, I feel like a lot of our issues would be sorted, as he is kind, affectionate and understanding most of the time. I'm a very sensitive person, and he doesn't seem to know how to deal with that. He is not very emotional at all, and it's hard that he can't accept the way I feel about certain things without me feeling like I'm being silly. For example, my Mother's Day, he bought me a card but not a gift. I'm not a materialistic person, and if anything, I wanted some cheesy rubbish that just said mummy on it, and he couldn't understand why that upset me. Other things that have come up, now I've made a list. Get jealous when I go out. We keep asking when I'm coming back, how much I drink, and if I'm going to be late, he seems annoyed but won't admit it. I'll get comments like, you're out again, when actually it's very rare, and I finally feel like I'm finding myself again after children. I support him in doing things for himself, but feel I need to spread mine out and not do it too much. When he goes out, he's very flirty with others, but then will message me looking for reassurance, asking why I love him. He has twice been caught out messaging girls saying he wants them, but I truly believe nothing physical has ever happened. This happened pre-children. Never makes plans for us as a couple or family, but is the one organising nights out with the friends and golf trips. We argue a lot over the way we are with the children. He can shout and lose his temper easily, whereas I try to do gentle parenting approach. He will also argue in front of them, which I refuse to do. He never says when I look nice. It's always comments like, that's a tight dress, that's a short skirt for work. I often feel uncomfortable around friends, as he makes jokes often at my expense. He says everyone knows it's a joke, but I honestly think some people think he's being serious. If I try to bring up suggestions on ways to deal with the kids or any of the above to him, he just gets his back up and says, well, you're not so perfect, which I fully accept 100% I'm not. He has just become a very negative person who gets stressed out very easily, even to the point where a short car journey, he would be annoyed by another driver that then affects my mood. Right now, there are days where I don't look forward to coming back from work, as he just gets so stressed with the kids and speaks negatively about most things. There's no hello kiss or any excitement to see each other. Maybe that's family life, but we're still only in our 30s. I just feel at a loss, as we've come round in circles over the same issues time and time again. Things may improve for a week and then it slips back again. I just question if I still love him daily, and the answer may change daily too. I feel like the idea of breaking up a family makes it so much harder, and every time I think about it, I just get so upset. We have some lovely times as a family. We also have all the same friends now and do things as couples or families. We have lots of fun together, but those fun times seem to be getting outnumbered by all the other things. I've put off sending this or talking to friends, as I feel like I know what people would say when seeing it written down. It all seems so much worse than it is when it's all listed together, but he is a good dad. He does a lot at home, works hard, and we do have good times. I feel deep down, even though I question if I still love him, there must be something there that's stopping me from leaving. I also don't have a clue what I would even do in terms of when the conversation is to be had, how we would even part ways. It all feels very scary. Sorry for the huge email or rambling. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it helps to at least let it out to someone. Your podcast has made me feel a lot stronger and like I could deal with life as a single mum, but it's the first step that terrifies me. As always, please keep me anonymous if you choose to share this. Thank you and much love. I've got so much to say about it. Reading this quickly, there was something, and I actually think I sent it to you on TikTok. And there's this saying that sometimes when things are mediocre or okay, that's like more dangerous than if things are really bad. Because when things are really, really bad, you're more likely to make that change, to end that marriage, leave that job, whatever it is that's really bad. But when things are not terrible, you're then left feeling like it's not bad enough to make that change because the change is so scary. But actually, yes, you're saying that you have good times, but all those bad points are just not an acceptable relationship.
I actually listened to that. I could have written about my marriage.
Yeah.
Or it's really resonating with me, actually. And I completely understand how you're feeling, because I think before everything happened in my marriage and before it ended, I felt so many of those things. But some of those points are literally down to the T. And I'll hold my hands up. If my marriage hadn't ended in the way it would have ended, I wouldn't have left.
Yeah.
It's like what you're saying. It was nothing bad enough. I would never have had it in me to leave and walk away. And I think there's the danger in it. And I think if I'd have known what I know now, and if I'd known like the strength I would have found, or the happiness that I'm feeling as I sit here right now, and being in such a positive, happy place in my life and genuinely like excited for the future, you can't see past everything you've known. I would be more inclined to have left before everything happened.
I guess you're not to ever know what is going to happen.
No.
The unknown is so scary.
Right. And I've had those feelings for a while of, do I love this man? Do I not? And it's hard when you have like some positive days and then literally all those things that are important to you. I understand about the non-communication, not being able to speak about things. And I think, we've said it time and time again, for a relationship to actually work and to move forwards and for you to grow together, and relationships do change and different needs will change during those relationships. But if you can't communicate those things, it's not going to work. And I think like the biggest reason my relationship didn't work was there was simply no communication in terms of, I was quite good at articulating needs or importances, but I think it's really hard if you're not being heard.
Yeah.
And you're not being validated or listened to. I mean, the fact he's communicating only via text, like, it's a massive red flag.
Yeah.
Like, well, I hate communicating anything serious on text. I think it's really hard to tell the tone someone's speaking in, to tell, I don't know, I think you can read a text in a completely wrong way. And like, one thing I will say is the person I am seeing now, if I feel anything and like I'm texting about it, he'll call me up straight away and say, talk to me. Let's speak about that in person. I think that's a really positive thing to be able to speak. I think my opinion from someone who has been in a very similar situation, and it did take something shit to break it down, but actually that's what I needed. But
yeah, it is. That's what I mean. It's almost more dangerous and hard when you're, it's not terrible, it's not good, it's okay, or
it's not bad enough.
Yeah, because this isn't okay. It's not terrible. And when it's bad but not terrible, doing those things like breaking up your family, that guilt almost keeps you back. So I think our advice would be try and communicate your concerns in your marriage, see if he's willing to make certain changes. But if not,
and have you said to him, you are considering ending the marriage, or is it just you're communicating those other issues? I think maybe you need to be like, look, I am very seriously considering that this might not be right anymore. These are my reasons. I am open to work on it, but this is what I need. And I think that and you know what? If if he doesn't listen to you in regards to that, I'm probably really old school, but I would sit down and write a letter to him explaining that. It depends what kind of relationship you've got, but like some relationships, people threaten to leave in marriages all the time, and it might have never amounted to anything, so he might not believe you. But I think something different, like writing it down in a letter, I think it also allows you time to gather your thoughts and to make sure you've put everything you need to get in there, and it's almost like there's no escape, that he will have to read it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so that would be my advice.
Yeah. Thank you for sending it in. Very brave.
Okay, so we're just going to do a few more Stanleys and we're going to give our little opinion.
Go on, though.
I've been living with my boyfriend for a couple of years. Recently, I've noticed every time I've gone into my purse, money is missing, and I'm pretty sure it's him. I mean, you need to speak to him and like almost confront him and be like, I've noticed money's missing.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting to see how he reacts, whether he's honest or not. There might be.
I think as well, if you've like got the concrete evidence that you there's no other possibility, if he would continue to lie, that's like a massive red flag for me, that what else is he lying about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, sometimes it is those like small lies that make you wonder as like, what else is lying about? So yeah, definitely confront it. I'm intrigued.
Girls, could really appreciate your advice. My baby is 1 and I'm insecure about my body. Recently, my boyfriend keeps making comments about my weight and how I should be watching what I eat. That's really insensitive. I would say something. I would say to him, these comments are making me feel this way. I don't know. I feel like then you end up like in a spiraling thing.
I don't know. This one's a really tricky one because like that would ruin me, not saying a lie. Like it would. But at the same time, like it depends also how it's being said, because sometimes it could be coming from a place of care. You know, if someone is unhealthy or really overweight, it may be like I want you to be careful because I know that you're not happy. Like, do you know what I mean? So sometimes it also depends how it's said. Like, I know that my mum sometimes will say things to my dad, like, don't eat that. You know you don't need it. But also he's diabetic. So, like, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's a fine line between being comfortable enough with your partner to be able to, like, voice something or being like, babe, you should be doing that because you're fat.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, tricky one.
Found out my husband has been secretly smoking. It's a big no-no for me. It's the lying.
Yeah, I was going to say, why is it secret?
It's the lying. So you obviously know, if he's doing it in secret, he knows it's a big deal for you. But I think the fact he's then keeping, again, I'm the kind of person that would spiral. If he's keeping that from me, what else is he keeping from me?
Yeah. But I guess granted, it could be the only thing. I think the issue is, like, for me, I don't like smoking. I've
never even tried a cigarette.
I don't think it's a very nice habit, and it's especially not nice when one of two of you smoke.
And as well, if you've got kids around, I don't agree with that.
I don't think it would be a leave, but I think it's, you know, you could be strong enough to give like an ultimatum, like, I don't feel comfortable you doing it. But then I'm also aware, like, it can be something that is very hard to stop. So I don't think it's a leave, but it's it needs to be addressed, and you need to come to some sort of like resolution to like what's going to work for both of you.
Yeah, I agree.
Should we end this episode with an affirmation of the week? If you worry about being a good mum, that in itself shows that you are a good mum.
Agree.
Repeat it.
If you worry about being a good mum, that in itself means you are a good mum.
Yes. Make sure you guys remember that. Feeling guilty just means that you care. And yeah, that's it. We all have those guilts, but
we're just all trying to do the best we could do.
And that is the best. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you loved it. Make sure, as always, you follow, share. And we'd really love it if you could leave some positive feedback on the reviews on Apple. That would be amazing. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.